Hi, and welcome to Concordia Today. I'm Jenny Raymond.
And I'm Natalie Vandenbosch. Later on Concordia Today, Dara McIntosh will have a report on a slave burial ground in Quebec. Also, reporter Annick Lucier will interview Gail Fairman, director of the Diploma in Accountancy at Concordia University.
But first, the news brought to you by Concordia's Journalism Department.
There's a new melody playing in the Arts and Science faculty. Martin Singer has been named as the faculty's next dean. Singer has been appointed for a 5-year term and succeeds Gail Valaskakis, who held the post since 1992. Singer will hold his position as chair and associate professor of the history department until his new appointment. He starts June 1st.
Daniel Gagno's complicated year as Concordia Student Union president has become even more confusing. Gagnon says he will run to complete his term in the recall election that is to take place this week. CSU Council showed no confidence in their leader last month by voting 13-2 in favor of recall. He appealed the vote, but the Judicial Board upheld Council's decision. If Gagnon is re-elected, he will stay in office 1 month before President-elect Rebecca Aldworth takes over.
By now, many students know that Rebecca Aldworth won the annual CSU presidential election. Although she prepares to take office on June 1st, many voters weren't even aware of her platform. Next week, a recall election will be held. It will decide who will sit as president for the remaining 6 weeks of this term. But this election could prove to be futile. Tim Sargent reports.
On June 1st, the new president of the Concordia Student Union will occupy this office. 27-year-old fine arts student Rebecca Aldworth won last month's presidential election in a very tight race, and she has now set out an ambitious agenda.
I want to see the student groups functioning better. I want to see them have more facilities, equipment, funds, office space.
But when voters cast their ballots, many were unaware of her campaign platform.
Well, I never thought that Rebecca will win because I never saw her doing any campaign well. I saw her once, I think.
I personally knew not much of what she stood for or issues, but I did see her pictures everywhere, and she looked good in them, and I guess it's the whole JFK approach of pretty face winning the election.
Next week, a recall election will be held to determine who will serve as president for the remaining term. The term ends May 31st, and the election will cost close to $5,000.
Classes will be over during this election, which may make reaching quorum very difficult. And if it's not reached,
Then the recall election is void.
And it's a complete waste of money.
It's for no reason.
but what matters for Rebecca Aldworth is that in less than 2 months, she becomes president.
Lindsay Chrysler. Hi, this is Rebecca again.
For Concordia Today, I'm Tim Sargent.
Drinks may not be the only thing you can purchase at Reggie's. You may soon be able to buy the entire bar. The Concordia Student Union is considering selling the campus hangout to an independent business. CSU President Daniel Gagnon says selling the bar will help reduce a $250,000 deficit. But some CSU members disagree with Gagnon and are looking into alternatives to keeping the bar under student management.
Vanier College microcomputer student Kelvin Young is one of the many depending on a computer from the Concordia Computer Cooperative. The co-op's recent bankruptcy left almost 500 students with nothing but a hole in their pockets. Alana Schachter has more.
Calvin Young's dreams of owning a computer crashed when the co-op declared bankruptcy. He only found out about the bankruptcy after he signed over his $3,000 loan. Now he doesn't know where to turn.
If I could resort to violence, I would, but there's really nothing I could do right now.
Young thinks the employees knew the co-op was going bust when they sold him his computer.
He was trying to get me to take home merchandise. I told him, that's crazy. Why am I going to take a printer or a sound blaster that I can't work without a computer, you know? And it's only after I found out that they went bankrupt, it was like, he just wanted me to have some type of merchandise to say, well, at least you got something, you know, but I got nothing.
Despite their name, the Concordia Co-op is not affiliated with the university. Still, the university wants to help students like Young who have paid for but not received computers.
Is trying to find a way of identifying those students affected by this and making sure that the trustee has full records of all the students potentially affected by the events.
For Concordia Today, I'm Ilana Schachter.
The Department of Civil Engineering and the Center for Building Studies will soon merge. The two units will have one administrative structure under the name School for Building. The restructuring will produce a tighter unit with a reduction of 30% in administrative infrastructure. The proposal will go to University Senate. If approved, it will be enforced by June 1997.
An extensive environmental audit is planned on Concordia's facilities and policies. Students from the Concordia Recycling and Compost Collective want a greener university. With their initiative well underway, they plan to submit a proposal to the rector's office before the summer. They hope to begin auditing next fall.
What is contagious, releases tension, reduces stress, and gives you a good workout all at once? Tanya Kriviak has the surprising answer to what may change your outlook on life.
It's called laughing. We do it all the time, and it can save the day. Did you know that 100 laughs is equivalent to 10 minutes spent rowing? They say laughter is the best medicine. But is there such a thing as too much? Angie Plesiadis is a social worker at the Montreal General Hospital and has done some research on laughing.
Well, I think that if you've been in a situation where people are laughing, just looking at other people laugh, I think makes you laugh. And I think the harder you try not to laugh, probably the harder it is to stop it. So if you get the giggles, I think you have to let it just ride through.
Is there a daily recommended dose of laughter?
Children laugh 500 times per day, and adults laugh 15 times per day. So, I mean, that's a big discrepancy. So, I'm not sure how many times, but certainly somewhere in between 15 and 500 perhaps. And we don't laugh enough.
Keep in mind, the most wasted day of all is that on which we have not laughed. For Concordia Today, I'm Tanya Kriviak.
Summer is the time when most students say good riddance to their teachers. Yet a group of communication students are fighting to keep their professor a little bit longer. Nancy White has been teaching part-time in the communications department for nearly 2 years. When her contract expires this fall, union rules forbid her from being rehired unless there's a spot available. Students furious about her possible departure have signed a petition asking that she be hired on a permanent basis.
Deadlines and stress. Students know all about that, especially in Concordia's film department. The stress of finishing their films on time for the year-end screening is driving some of these students crazy. Geneviève Tremblay has more.
There's often more to student films than what meets the eye, like, for instance, the filmmakers. Some are pushing and shoving to get some editing time. Others are taking desperate measures to put an end to the stress. Only the best films will be presented at the screening. A jury of 11 students will make the selection.
Moi stressé, non. Non.
This is what a young filmmaker looks like under pressure.
I don't know what to do. It's 3 in the morning and I just can't stay awake. I have to edit. I have to finish this thing.
This is what's unlikely to happen to a student.
It's been a good night of editing. I'm really proud of myself. I've come a long way. Yep. But now it's time to relax.
Ready or not, the year-end screening will take place in the Hall building May 8, 9, and 10. For Concordia Today, I'm Geneviève Tremblay.
Members of the Stingers men's and women's soccer team showed kids last week that they not only have quick feet, but good hearts too. They hosted a micro-soccer clinic at John Abbott College where Kids Helping Kids was the theme of the day. Children participating in the clinic were charged $10 to improve their game and practice skills with the team. The money raised by the event will go to helping other kids who are underprivileged.
Members of the Tau Kappa Epsilon fraternity left that frat house for some shelter of a different kind last week. They slept in makeshift boxes to illustrate the conditions that homeless people face every day. It was part of their 6th annual charity drive for Le Bon Dieu dans la rue. More than $5,000 in donations, clothing, and food was raised for the organization. Dans la rue is non-profit and dedicated to helping kids get off the streets.
As the end of the semester approaches, many students are fearing the dark cloud of the job market looming ahead. While the employment situation may look grim, some Concordia alumni seem to have weathered the storm. I caught up with one alumnus to find out what it takes.
You all passed. Congratulations.
Former Concordia student Jeff Baker has passed,
Passed on his reporting skills, that is, to this first-year journalism class. When he's not teaching, Jeff is working here at the Montreal Gazette, where he's won a National Newspaper Award, the highest award granted to print journalists in Canada. How did this 28-year-old hit the big time so fast?
I think I had a really good drive, and I think I learned that through playing football and different things, but I really knew how to get things done and how to work without really giving up.
The director of the journalism department says Jeff's success is the result of hard work.
Put him on the police beat and he does a really good job of it. Put him somewhere else and he does a really good job of it. I mean, he just works hard to master whatever he's given.
What's Jeff's best advice to students?
You have to be creative in the way you approach things. You have to go out and do a lot of things that are outside of school as well.
For Concordia Today, I'm Natalie Vandenbosch.
Ever wonder just how much beef is really in your hamburger? Thanks to a generous Concordia alumna, there may be a whole lot more next year. When called during a recent phone-a-thon, beef farmer Dawn Ebbett decided to give what she could, 100 pounds of flash-frozen ground beef. She heads one of the largest cow-calf operations in southwestern Quebec. The meaty donation will not be given until slaughtering time next fall, giving campaign organizers time to decide how to make best use of the gift.
Thanks for tuning in to Concordia Today. I'm Natalie Vandenbosch.
And I'm Jenny Raymond. Coming up on Concordia Today, Darren McIntosh will have a report on slave burial ground in Quebec, and reporter Annie Cloutier will interview Gail Fairman, director of the Diploma in Accountancy.
Have a good week, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Canadians have always been quick to point the finger at Americans for the horrible crime of slavery. But recently, Canadians, specifically Quebecers, were shocked when a slave burial ground was uncovered in the eastern townships.
Listed in official Quebec registers as Nigger Rock, the St. Armand Negro Burial Ground is part of Quebec's history that has been long forgotten. It is estimated that 30 slaves are buried at the foot of the landmark that sits upon the property that once belonged to Colonel Philip Luke, a United Emperor loyalist who settled there in 1781 with his slaves. 216 years later, the property now belongs to Clement Benoit and his son Réjean, who have been accused of desecrating the burial site. The accusation comes from Hank Avery, a teacher at Butler Elementary, who exposed the hidden secret to the media. Avery believes that recognition should be given to the remains of the slaves, who are part of Quebec's heritage. At Concordia University, hearing about the burial ground is actually old news for one particular professor.
I have known about this slave burial ground, I think, somewhere in around 1968-69. I went there with a group of black Montrealers after we had established a research center, or it was called the Institute of Research. It's a creation of the National Black Coalition of Canada at the time, and I was the president during that time. We started the institute in around 69, and around 71 we had heard about this Nigger Rock, as it was called, by a gentleman who had brought it to our attention by the name of Roy Sates. He's now dead. We call him a sort of a local historian of the oral type, and another gentleman by the name of Gordon Sadul, who worked with the institute under my direction. So we decided we'd take a trip out to the townships to visit this site. So one of the comments that were made is that they've noticed that the tombstones that were sort of surrounded by wire meshings and sort of fences that were treated with a certain dignity. So one assumes that, or it is assumed that these are the tombstones of the owners and previous owners, and I was given treated with dignity, but that the marker of the grave of the blacks were were not being treated with the same dignity. So in some sense they were less relevant, or they are not seen as being a part of the kinship of, or part of the history, or a part of the people who had a significant impact in the development of the region. What Amory is saying, and what I agree with fully, is that they came here either as servants or were imported as slaves, that they worked to develop that land, that the land served the purposes of the families and the region as it evolved. And therefore, they're in a sense settlers in the same sense that those white settlers were settlers.
Despite the many books that have been written about slavery, in addition to other topics in Black history, many people remain oblivious to the issue. When students at Concordia were asked if they were aware of the fact that slavery existed in Quebec, many of them said,
"No, I didn't. No, I didn't." Yes, I did read about it in the newspaper not too long ago. No.
Most people don't even realize that there is a grave burial site here in Quebec in the eastern townships. And I'm told that there's no markers. And I know that Black people are a very religious group, and death is a part of the whole process of religion, and that it is important for us to know where to respect the death of a person. And I think that Canada should recognize the burial site and respect it. We can't deny that in the U.S. Slavery was very brutal. As a matter of fact, anytime one human being tries to own another human being, it becomes inhumane. And people sold children away from mothers. There was lynchings in the States. There was beatings, and there was just the living conditions were poor. But when we look at Canada, if we think of Angelique, for example, who was hung because she overheard a conversation with her slave owner that they were about to sell her. And she burned the house down and burned buildings adjacent to the house, and she was caught and hung. And so we know that those kinds of brutalities went on here as well as in the U.S.
It is not a burial ground where kings and princes, etc., and if there are kings and princesses there from Africa, we don't know. But its importance really is in its spiritual relevance and the continuation of the sacredness of burial grounds, and the fact that we are saying that it is. That's the important thing, that we are saying it's important to us.
As horses continue to graze upon the burial site, Avery and his supporters refuse to back down from paying their respects to the ancestors of African Canadians until a marker or plaque is placed on the burial site.
For Concordia Today, I'm Dara McIntosh.
Concordia University is one of the few universities that prepares its students for the field of chartered accountancy. And I'm sure that during this hectic income tax season, a few of us have thought of transferring into the program. I certainly have. Well, to talk about this great diploma in accountancy at Concordia is the program's director, Gail Fairman. Welcome, Gail.
Hi.
Now, the program is known to be, or reputed to be, quite up to date with current trends. What do you attribute that success to?
Well, that's really our focus in the program. The instructors that we hire, a great deal of them are from the faculty itself, but we also hire people who are knowledgeable in industry on specific issues. As you mentioned, for the tax issues, we would have somebody from Revenue Canada come in and teach our students. And part of our job is to keep up. So we will read all the current issues that are going on, we will attend conferences, and we're very active in what the Order of Chartered Accountants is currently coming up with.
Okay, and obviously the students have kept up to date as well, because they've fared quite well in the exams. Perhaps you can tell us a bit about the exam and how Concordia students have done.
Sure. The exam is a national exam. Every person in Canada writes the same exam, and it's implemented by the Canadian Institute of Chartered Accountants. And every province produces its own students, but they all write this same common exam. And Concordia has done extremely well on this national exam. As a matter of fact, this past year, our student ranked #1 in Canada, which is quite a feat. I believe it was over 1,000 people writing the exam. And every year we consistently rank people. Last year I think we ranked 4 of the top 20 in Canada. So from one university, that's quite a feat.
Okay. Now, I think that there are different fields of accountancy that we're not quite familiar with. Can you perhaps explain that?
I could give you a bit of a background on that. There's really 3 types of accountants that you can be in Canada, 3 professional designations. You have the certified general accountant, the certified management accountant, and the chartered accountant.
Okay.
And our program trains people for the chartered accountancy, which is the only program that you have to do a graduate program in order to be able to write this exam. Certified management accountant would be found more in a company and would be an individual who would be more involved in budgeting and costing and management decisions within a firm. A chartered accountant works in a public accounting firm initially, and they've taken on the role as the auditor, the one who verifies companies' books. But the field has gone way beyond that. They are becoming much more business advisors and are being called in on all kinds of interesting business transactions. And the certified general accountant tends to be somebody who's more of a specialist in tax, and you might find them working more in nonprofit organizations or government.
Okay. Now, what would you attribute the success of Concordia's program to, as opposed to other universities who also have diplomas in accountancy?
I think Concordia has a unique program in that our focus is very much student-based. And what we're interested is in what the students need. And we stay attuned to that. We have relatively small class sizes. Our teachers are very up-to-date. Only the best teachers teach in the program. We provide a lot of care to the student. If a student wants to see us, we're there. Our office hours are there for students. And we also provide a lot of feedback. We use a lot of case material. Students prepare, they do problems, they come back, and they work with us. And the other thing is, we have a coaching, I don't like to call it a coaching, a summer program the year that they write. Okay. That's very intensive and is probably, in my opinion anyways, probably the best in Canada. And we bring those students along. They practice questions every week in small tutorial groups, and they're constantly getting feedback so that they know whether they're prepared for this exam.
Is this kind of like an internship program?
It's not actually working in a firm, but okay. It's practicing the type of questions, because a lot of this exam is the art of writing that exam. And okay. So during their courses, they're learning the material, and as they approach the exam, they're going to learn much more about how to actually write it. So they'll be exposed to a lot of questions and techniques and things like that on how to do well. Because a lot of the exam is fear. The student walks in, and in Quebec, they'll write with at least 600-700 people in a room. And they need to feel that they will do better than the next person. And the national pass rate is only 50% for first-time writers. So, and in Quebec, it's even lower than that. So they need to feel that they have an upper hand, and they have that confidence coming out of the program.
Okay, now, who are the students that are attracted to Concordia's program?
We have a fantastic range and mix of ethnic backgrounds, and it's really an excellent melange, and I think very representative of the Montreal area. They come from all different backgrounds. A lot of them have a good business sense because their families have small businesses, and that helps them also. And it's actually a wonderful group that help each other.
Okay. Now, also, the thing with the accountancy program is that you definitely work, I guess you have to have smaller groups and work with the students closer than, you know, big history programs or that sort of thing. So what kind of training, like special training, do these accountancy professors have as opposed to other professors?
That's an interesting question. Yeah. I think that most of them who are coming in to do this love to teach, and I think you have to have a love for teaching and a love for the students, because generally in a business program, most people would be out working in business. So, and a lot of them do work. So to give their time and effort, they're trying to give something back to the university.
Okay.
And I think that shows in the way they teach, because a lot of good teaching is just having time for the students.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Gail, for joining us on our final episode of Concordia Today.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And I would like to give a special thanks to all the advanced TV journalism students, as well as the Honors Project students who have contributed greatly to our program. Special thanks to Michael and Peter as well for all their efforts. And we hope that you have a super summer. I hope I will as well. If you have any questions or comments for our last episode, please email us at the address is studioa@vax2.concordia.ca. On behalf of Jenny Raymond and Natalie Vandenbosch, have a good summer. Bye-bye.